Hello and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. As always, I have a fantastic guest with me today, but this lady is really spectacular. She's just amazing. You'll be so impressed. I know I am. Her name is Michelle Zellner. She is an author, speaker, health and happiness strategist, founder of Better Beings, creator of the Revolution University, and host of the Be a Better Being podcast. As a former competitive gymnast, exercise has always been an integral part of her life. After earning her master's degree in kinesiology, she launched her own business called Better Beings, providing personal training services. Michelle eventually expanded her services to help people not only physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. And my goodness, we can all use a little bit of that right now. Her tagline is Better Minds, Better Bodies, Better Beings. Her book is titled The You Revolution, The Journey of a Better Being, followed by another passion project called The BFF is Your BFF Handbook, a simple guide to fueling your busy body. Wow, Michelle, when do you sleep?
Well, I mean, that all took 26 years, so let's not pretend it just happened overnight.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being on the show. I've been looking forward to this for so long. And just so the listeners know, Michelle and I are friends. We met through a mutual friend of ours, Polly Latovsky, and also another mutual friend, Mandy Connell, who has a wonderful radio talk show here in the Denver area. So, Michelle, when I read your profile, I read your bio, it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, okay, I knew it took 26 years, but you just hit the ground running.
I mean, well, first of all, hi, Cheryl. Thank you for having me on your show.
You're
I know this
welcome.
has been too many years in the making, but it's funny because I really didn't hit the ground running. All of this was, I'm going to say organic, totally, definitely not planned. I actually went to school initially for yes, we'll just go there. Initially for hotel restaurant management, and I hated it. And so then I switched to psychology, really, because what else do you do? I don't know what I'm going to do. And then, my love of sports and physical fitness and all the things kind of got me thinking, well, what about like athletic training? So I actually started in the athletic training program at the University of Hawaii, where I had just finished my psychology degree. And about I think one semester into the program, they cut the program. So then I was like, well, geez, I don't really have plan B, so I don't know what I'm doing. And I thought, well, I guess I go get a master's degree. And I always, fascinated by psychology and human behavior, and thought, well, what about sports psychology? Nobody told me that to actually be a sports psychologist working with athletes, you had to get a PhD in psychology and then specialize in sports psychology. So I ended up going to CU Boulder thinking I was getting one kind of program when it was actually a completely other kind of program. It was more of a kinesiology research-based program. Yes, there was a sports psychology component to it, but it was not applied sports psychology. It's all very much research, which wasn't really my jam. However, it's while I was there that I had a part-time job at the front desk of a gym. And there was the owner, Kathy Shaver at the time, Kathy Green now. She was a personal trainer, and then she had another personal trainer. And you have to remember, this is way, way, way back, right? Like we're talking 1997. This is
It's not that far back, trust me.
well, but personal training was not a thing. Back
It's
then,
true.
it was for Hollywood stars and maybe some super rich people. But from a small town in Wisconsin, girl, to pay somebody to make you exercise was like, really, Michelle? In fact, when I told my parents what I was doing, my mom said, well, honey, if after a few years or a few months, you have to get a real job, that's okay. And my mom is the entrepreneur. So this just shows like how like not a thing, and this concept was very, very foreign, and like, okay, whatever, good luck with that, honey. And so what happened was the gal that was there was a trainer, was pregnant, and she said, Michelle, why don't you get certified? Take my clients while I'm gone. You'll love it.
Mhm.
So I did. And I was like, oh my God, I do love this. Like, where has this been all my life? It's everything I love. It's psychology. It's helping people build better bodies. But a lot of it was just, human behavior, talking through things, getting to know people, understanding their challenges. And it really did become somewhat of therapy, and just helping people kind of figure out and overcome particular things, or just be their cheerleader, or just give them a really hard workout so they could just disconnect from their day for an hour.
Mhm.
And it really did develop very organically. So I spent the bulk of my early years as a personal trainer. And usually, when someone asks me what I do, I'm a personal trainer. Oh, well, what else do you do? Because again, back then, you can't make a living being a personal trainer.
Mhm.
Well, no, like, that's what I do. This isn't just some side gig. This is
Mhm.
what I do. And I never ever thought I wouldn't do it. In fact, um, I remember Kathy, kind of telling me she was getting burnt out, or, don't overload yourself. You're going to get burned out. And I'm thinking, how could she ever get burned out? This is
Mhm.
the most amazing thing ever. Because, as a mid 20-year-old, I'm making pretty good money for a mid 20-year-old. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I mean, this is the best thing ever. How could you ever not want to do it? Well,
And you
fast
were
forward,
working for yourself.
right? Which is good and bad, right? Because
Oh,
it also
that's
means
true.
if you don't work, you don't get paid, right? This
Mhm.
whole, there is no paid vacation. I have to
Mhm.
buy my own health insurance and write all the
Mhm.
things, which totally by choice. Um, but yes, at some point you evolve, at least I did. Um, Not that it got boring, it just wasn't challenging to me. It wasn't interesting. And I mean, I had
Mhm.
many people, and I'm still very close to a lot of them. The relationships that I developed, many of them are friends. In fact, Kathy and I just reconnected about not that long ago, after not talking to each other for decades. Um,
Wow.
so the owner, who really, I have to credit her with being my mentor. And back then, I don't even know if mentoring was a thing. Honestly,
Mhm.
nobody ever told me get a mentor. And
Mhm.
so she was my mentor without me even realizing it or appreciating it. But I look back at those early years, and I mean, I owe so much of this whole path really to
Mhm.
her. And yeah, so I mean, once I figured out that's what I wanted to do,
Mhm.
yes, then I hit the ground running. But it all
Mhm.
happened very accidentally.
Mhm. Well, most wonderful things do start that way,
True.
accidentally or
That's true.
reluctantly. But I think it would be just a natural segue into what you were doing as a gymnast. I mean, because obviously, as a gymnast, especially a competitive gymnast, I mean, you have the physical training, you have the mental training and the mental toughness that you have to be able to compete. And do you think that any of that really helped form you as a trainer and a coach and all the things that you're doing now in your life, that without that background it might not have been quite as, I don't want to say easy, I don't want to say smooth, but quite as organic?
Probably. It's funny. I just had a little reunion with some of my original, the OGs of the OGC, the Oshkosh Gymnastics girls. National Gymnastics Day was
Wow.
last month in September. And we talked about that, like the life skills that we learned
Hmm.
because of the gym or in the gym. At the time, you don't know you're learning them. You don't know you're
Hmm.
developing these life skills, right? And so, would they have developed at some other time in some other way? Most likely. But I think, one thing it did for me for sure, and this was only upon reflection afterwards,
Hmm.
was it really highlighted for me my goals and my values and my priorities. And maybe not in the way somebody might think, but a lot of my challenges with gymnastics, I uh, stemmed around competition. I'm not a
Hmm.
competitive person. So I know it
Hmm.
seems like, oh, if you're an entrepreneur, if you own your own business, you got to be like a go-getter and a competitive person. You got to always be like, go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle.
Hmm.
I actually am not that. I really am not. And even though I've done all these things, like I said, it's been over the course of 26 years.
Mhm.
right? Now, somebody else might have done this in 5 years in their business, that go-getter, get it all done. I am I take it when it comes. I do it when it's ready. I let it play out. I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a hurry.
Mhm.
I'm not competing with anyone or anything. I'm just doing me.
Mhm.
And I think, had I understood when I was a gymnast that I was not a competitive person, my
Mhm.
gymnastics career might have looked a lot different. But
Mhm.
I do know that one of the things that, as I was reflecting on that, one of the things that is very, very clear is if you are operating out of alignment, you are not going to be okay. Because I go
Mhm.
back to those times in gymnastics when we were entering gymnastics or competitive season. That's when my attitude shifted. That's when I got, a little negative. That's when I got a little down on myself. That's when I got into woe is me. It's not fair. I'm not as good as
Mhm.
so and so. Or I work
Mhm.
my butt off and I don't win because I don't compete well. My teammate never comes to practice and goes and wins everything because she competes well.
Mhm.
I really didn't have a lot of natural skill and talent to be a gymnast, quite honestly. I didn't have the strength. I really didn't. Um, but I had the passion. So I think
Mhm.
that's another thing that is a good reminder in life in general. You
Mhm.
might not have all the skills or talents or, the foundation necessary to be the best, but if this is something you really are passionate about and you love and it fuels your fire,
Mhm.
you can develop the skills to the best of your ability to be the best that you can be. I might not
Mhm.
be the best, but I'm going to be the best that I can be. And I think, when you're 8, 10, 12, 15, and again, this is a long time ago. Yes, the mental fortitude, we did a lot of physical training. Was
Mhm.
there mindset training? Not really. I mean, I don't
Mhm.
think it was really talked about 40 years ago, which is what we're
Mhm.
talking about, right? To
Right.
some degree it was, but it certainly wasn't mainstream like it is
Mhm.
now. I do remember my coach at one point giving me these tapes, like we're talking like cassette tape that you put in
Yeah.
a thing, right?
Yeah, I
And
remember those.
yeah, I only came to learn later as an adult that it was a visualization, progressive
Mm.
muscle relaxation tape. Um, and you're supposed to visualize your routines while you're relaxing your muscles, but also visualizing your body doing what you want it to do. So you
Mhm.
ingrain in your brain the success. And I guess that was some kind of, mental training for that. But what's
Mhm.
funny is I could never make it through my routines in my head. I fell off all the time. Yeah. And so I think that shows that there was that doubt in myself
Uh-huh.
and that lack of confidence in myself that I was capable of competing at a high level and winning at a high level and performing at a
Mhm.
high level. And so, of course, you perform the way you believe you're going to perform.
Mhm.
So, if I could go back, like we all probably say, if I could go back now, knowing what I
Mhm.
know now and implement all those things I know now,
Mhm.
imagine what a great gymnast I could have been. And I was okay. I mean, I was
Uh-huh.
decent, but yeah, I wouldn't say I was like certainly not the best gymnast the OGC ever had, that's for sure.
Mhm. Well, I think the power of visualization now is getting the kind of attention that it should, because it's so incredible because you are actually training your brain and your body at the same time just by using your imagination. And
And I
that's actually how I got my first level black belt, or no, it was my second level black belt, because it was all random attacks. And there are three people attacking you at different times with different weapons. You have no idea what's coming. I had the skills to do it, but I just would freak out. I just would freak out. And after like months and months of training, and even my classmates would try and help me and coach me, and they're like, you have the skills. And I'm going, yeah, I know, but I just don't have the mindset. And it was like, oh. So I stopped training my body for about 6 weeks and just did it in my mind over and over and over, starting with attacks that weren't that scary. And I could see myself staying calm, staying relaxed, breathing, doing exactly what I needed to do. Took about 6 weeks, and then I went and I did the test, and it was awesome. I kicked butt and took names.
Well, and I really think my coaches were so far ahead of the game, even introducing that kind of stuff to us, because
Hmm.
this was like for the weirdos, right? The woo woo. It really was seen that way back
Mhm.
then. So the fact that it is way more mainstream,
Mhm.
and people have the buy-in, and yet a lot of people still don't have the buy-in.
Mhm.
But I
No.
think it is definitely in that space where people truly do understand there is a mind-body connection, and it all
Mhm.
starts in the mind, and then the body follows suit. So yeah, and certainly as I've evolved as a human, that own evolution of my attitude adjustment has certainly taken hold. And um, I mean, a lot of it is just a process. Like, you have to go through experiences and then decide that you are going to adjust your attitude.
Mhm.
And it's a hard decision to make because our attitude by nature is in survival mode, right? It's protection, survival, avoid discomfort, all of
Mhm.
that, which is just rooted in our own survival mechanism. So anytime we face a challenge, we're going to naturally go into survival mode, which is some version of negativity. So you have to make the very dedicated choice to be positive and to kind of reframe the narrative or create a
Mhm.
new script or whatever it
Mhm.
is.
And that you're right. It isn't easy. And you have to make that decision. And it really helps to have somebody by your side coaching you along the way, which is where you come into the mental and emotional area of being a better being.
Yeah, I mean, I always say the mind is the hardest thing to change, and yet unless
Mhm.
and until you change it, nothing else does. And I know that from my own personal experience.
Mhm.
So, some of my big challenges in life, I'm not going to say are because of gymnastics, but I definitely developed them as I was a gymnast. And then I
Mhm.
think just as a kid and going through life, right? When you have a friend who is kind of manipulative and makes you feel like an outsider, but you cling
Mhm.
to her. And then you go to the gym, and there's that one girl who decides to give you the silent treatment today just
Mhm.
because, and you don't know why. And then you're all worried about who's doing what and why. And instead of focusing on what you just need to do, which is gymnastics, I'm worried about why this girl isn't talking to me today.
Mhm.
Um, and those kind of things, then those seeds get planted in your brain. So then as you evolve and develop it into an adult, you question and you doubt, and you start to kind of have your radar up for people who are not genuine, not really what they're
Mhm.
doing. Do I trust? Do I not?
Mhm.
Do I look for validation over here? Do I seek out acceptance over here? Like, just normal everyday growing up things.
Mhm.
And certainly the food aspect of it was a big part of my issue. I mean, if you can know anything about a gymnast and a dancer, right? A certain body size and type is helpful.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I mean, it's a struggle for anybody. And that also was part of it, because here I am wanting to fit in with my kids at school, my friends at school, and they're all eating whatever they want and doing whatever they want because they
Mhm.
run track or play basketball or play volleyball. Nobody gets a leotard and has to throw their bodies in the air like I do. So
Mhm.
I was like, well, that's not fair. They get to eat whatever they want. Well, I want to eat whatever I want, except that wasn't going to work out well. So
Mhm.
it really did, kind of have I don't know, it really set in place a very unhealthy attitude and relationship with food. So
Mhm.
then when I quit gymnastics, I was like, yay, I'm free. I can do whatever I want, which meant I could eat whatever I want. And I did.
Mhm. Wow. Okay, so this is just it's crazy because I understand the gymnastics world to a certain extent, but of course I really understand the dance world. But the thing is that you get so much attention, both positive and negative, depending on your size and your weight. Like, if you lose a few pounds, I remember as an adult one time I lost 3 pounds, big deal. People noticed and they commented on it. And it's like, really? You're paying that kind of attention? I'm a grown up. I'm dancing just for joy. I'm not dancing to get into any ballet company, that's for sure. But they were that body conscious. And then, of course, if you gain any weight, and I'm thinking of the younger people too. I mean, they're being just bombarded with this. And then there's mirrors to make things worse all over the studio. So everywhere you look, there's mirrors. So it just really sets you up for some really strange body image assessment and self-image problems.
It does. And yet I also can understand and appreciate. And dance too, but definitely gymnastics, there is a safety issue.
Hmm.
A few extra pounds could be the difference between you landing on your feet and you landing on your head. And that is a very real thing. So I understand it, absolutely. It doesn't, and maybe there could be different ways to go about it. And there probably are now, at least in a lot of, the gyms or, the organizations that are having to handle this. But it is an issue that is never going to go away, Cheryl. Never.
Hmm.
And it does not just affect the sports landscape.
Hmm.
I have friends with kids and teenagers. I hear them, I talk to them. They have nothing to do with sports. And they still have the body image issue, right? Because now we have social media. And
Hmm.
yes, there's always a focus on weight. In fact, I just had this conversation with a good friend of mine, and she heard me teaching. I was teaching a benefits of exercise class. She was here visiting, and I was teaching a virtual class. And I'm a huge fan of strength training. I will tell everybody, you need muscle. Build your muscle, 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 hustle, hustle. Let's build it, because it is your best friend in so many ways. If you just want to have life be easier, it's nice if you're strong. So she's kind of fallen in and out of a relationship with exercise over, her course of time. And
Hmm.
I was like, let's just get you back into lifting weight. She's like, I'm over it. I'm done. I was like, what does that mean? Well, it never works anyway, so why bother? I was like, what does that mean? Well, in her world, all of her efforts regarding exercise had to do with losing weight.
Oh.
In my world, I want to try to shift that narrative. No, it has to do with you being a healthy, strong human, because I want you to be able to keep up with me when I'm 70 and you're 70. If you
Hmm.
don't do anything now to build and maintain strength, I promise you, your life at 70 is not going to be that fun. You just
Hmm.
told me all these things that you want to do later in life. Well, you're not going to have the strength to do them if you don't exercise.
Hmm.
But because her whole relationship with exercise surrounded weight loss, and she wasn't successful, it was never sustainable, she just didn't see the results she saw, she's decided, why bother exercise?
Wow. Hey, even if you don't see results, let me just chime in here. You need it for your bone density,
I
especially as
mean,
we get older.
for everything, you need it for everything.
Your
And
metabolism.
that is part of the problem, is because all of these things, and same with food, right?
Hmm.
What we eat is all about weight. No, what you eat is about your health.
Hmm.
I mean, yes, what you eat impacts your weight. If you do or don't exercise, and what kind you do or don't do influences your weight. There's lots of other things that influence your weight as well. And exercise and the foods you do or don't eat impact every other aspect of your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. But
Hmm.
for so many decades, the messaging has always been to marry all three of those: food, exercise, and weight. And
Hmm.
I mean, I had that too. I mean, for many years, I was going to exercise because I either needed to earn what I was going to eat or to burn off what I just ate, instead of just exercising to be healthy, to build my bone density, to make me sleep better, to
Hmm.
clear my mind, to do a physical activity connecting with a friend or in a social
Hmm.
way. Those are all other things that we get, but it was always tied to, am I burning calories to help me lose weight or to burn off the food I ate?
When I finished graduate school, I was overweight and I was incredibly out of shape, incredibly, because in physical therapy school we had no time to ourselves, no time to work out or exercise, which I thought was really ironic when you think about what we were in school for. And it was okay for some of my other classmates because they were runners and they could run during lunch, and I would rather I don't run. I'm allergic to running. All the things that I would like to do. So I was really terribly out of weight and out of shape and overweight. And I was trying to lose weight, and finally, I was getting nowhere. And finally, I decided to set the bar a little bit lower. So instead of focusing on losing weight, my goal was to stop gaining. And that was my starting point. And once I changed that, it was like something magical happened. All of a sudden, I was able to, you know, be better with my eating choices. I was able to be, move better. And then I started losing some weight, but it was just changing that focus from, oh, I can't eat this or I can't eat that. It was like, let's just try and stop gaining weight and see what happens.
Well, and so as I decided to eat whatever I wanted, as you can imagine, I gained a lot of weight in a very short period of time. I gained about 55 pounds in a year and a half.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I mean, I don't joke around. I mean, I wanted to be the best at eating whatever I wanted. And so of course, then at some point you're like, oh my God, what have you done? And so now it's
Mhm.
like, we're going to start the diet roller coaster, right? And this is back in the mid 90s, I guess, diet culture, very, very entrenched in diet culture, and fat is the devil. So I'm already fat. I don't want to get any fatter. So we're not going to eat fat, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, so you start doing all these things that we're told to do. You're supposed to see results when you do it. And it's this whole mentality of eat less and move more, all of which is complete nonsense. And I tell you, Cheryl, it still blows my mind how many people still have that message. And
Wow.
nothing infuriates me more than when somebody comes to a class or maybe one-on-one coaching and comes to me eating 1,200 calories or 1,500 calories, going to the gym 5 times a day, literally, or 5 times a week. And it's because their doctor told them to do this.
To
I'm
lose
like,
weight?
to lose weight, this is what you do. You starve yourself and you exercise more, right? This is still the message that's out there, and the message that the medical community is still perpetuating. And I'm like, how are we still doing this? So when I, went down that road a number of times and lost some weight and then gained some back and then lost a little more and gained some back, I'm like, okay, but this, how do I just lose it and keep it off?
Mhm.
I realized that clearly my approach is just not right. There's something not right about this. So for me, the big mindset shift was take the focus off of weight loss and just learn how to actually feed a human.
Mhm.
Just learn like what a human is supposed to eat, how much me
Mhm.
specifically needs to eat to sustain my needs, my goals, what actual kinds of foods, how to put those foods in my body in the right way, because we are not taught nutrition, and all the
Right.
stuff we're taught is wrong. And
Mhm.
then we, try to piece it together from I heard this and I heard that, and I'm supposed to do this and maybe that. And I did this for a little bit of time, but then I did this for a lot of time. And
And neither one worked.
not, I mean, it all works for a little bit and then it stops working when you stop doing it, right?
Mhm.
So it's really about number one, you have to learn. You have to decide you're going to invest your time and energy and actually learn, which means
Mhm.
figure out how many calories do I need and how many am I eating? Because the
Mhm.
details do matter. I know there's a big push away from the calories in, calories out.
Mhm.
The math is still the math. Like
Mhm.
it is still calories in, calories out. But what most people don't understand is the type of calories that go in, the way they go in, when they go in, how often they go in, impacts how you burn them.
Mhm.
So on paper, it might look appropriate, calories in,
Mhm.
calories out, but you ate way too many of this kind of calorie and not
Mhm.
nearly enough of this kind of calorie, which
Mhm.
means you are not actually burning calories like on paper it seems like you should be.
Mhm.
And what a lot of people still don't understand is that if you don't eat enough, you are not going to burn calories because your body literally thinks there's no food to eat. Because back in the day, that was a real thing.
Mhm.
And so you slow down metabolism, conserve all your energy so you can survive this food shortage that
Mhm.
might turn into a famine and then you'll die.
Mhm.
Except you're not going to die. Your body's going to kick into survival mode, kick out cortisol, alter everything, how you
Mhm.
utilize your blood sugar regulating hormones. It's going to alter your hunger hormones. It's going to kick out cortisol, which stores fat around your belly. Like
Mhm.
none of it's going to work out well in the long
Mhm.
run. And so for so many people, it's about unlearning all the things and then actually learning the details. And
Mhm.
sometimes that means tracking your intake so you can have awareness, so we can actually see where the balance of nutrients is coming. And a lot of it is a whole mindset shift, right? Getting out of this quick
Mhm.
result, right? I want to see a result. Well, it didn't
Mhm.
work. Well, it does
Mhm.
work. You just didn't do it for long enough. So
Mhm.
nobody likes the process, right? We just want the outcome. I
It
mean,
takes time.
yeah, and nobody wants that. Nobody,
Mhm.
nobody likes that answer. That's always what I say. I'm the person who dashes hopes and dreams because I tell you the truth.
But it works. And I think, in our society, we want instant gratification. We want to see,
Yes,
okay, I made this decision yesterday, so I should be seeing my
right.
results today. And it just doesn't work that way. But I love the fact that you bring up the point that not all calories are created equal, and not all fats are created equal. So if you want to touch on why fat is not a dirty word.
Oh my God, fat is your friend. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Fat is flavor. Fat actually triggers the release of leptin, which is one of your hunger hormones. It's the one that tells you you're satisfied. You also need fat in order to absorb your fat soluble vitamins. So I think about like all this nutrient deficiency that we have. We are a malnourished country,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're not malnourished. We are well nourished, but we are malnutritioned. Because we're just eating a bunch of garbage that has no nutrients.
And
So
that's so sad.
we have
That's
plenty
just,
of energy intake, but we have almost no nutritional intake.
ugh.
So we are deficient in a lot of nutrients. But if you bought into the whole fat is the devil, right? And go fat free everything. Well, we have fat soluble vitamins, A, D, E, K. So if you don't eat fat when you're eating food that has those vitamins, you're not absorbing those vitamins. So I think about that person who's going to be good and pack carrots as a snack instead of going to the vending machine and getting their chips in the afternoon. And they're thinking they're doing such a good thing, which they are. Carrots are way better than chips, but they don't want to eat anything with it because, fat has calories. So we're just going to eat carrots. Which means not only are you eating a carbohydrate by itself, carrots, which your blood sugar is going to spike and then it's going to crash and then you're going to go get the chips anyway. And then you'll feel like a loser. So you'll probably get more chips, or maybe you'll get some cookies, or maybe you'll have some wine and cheese or whatever to make yourself feel better. But there's beta carotene in carrots, which is the precursor to vitamin A. If you don't have any fat with your carrots, you're not even going to get the benefit of the better choice that you're making. So whenever I have somebody who comes to me and they're so proud because they're making these great choices, and I have to break it to them that I'm sorry, but these great choices are actually not great because you're not doing it the right way, right? I mean, I try to deliver the message with a little more, kindness and a little better bedside manner than that. But basically that's it, right? I think of this vitamin D deficiency we all have, which we do. Almost nobody has adequate vitamin D. Well, you think about, again, the fat-free craze, fat-free dairy. Well, what does dairy have? Dairy has vitamin D. If you're not eating fat anyway, let's put it on our cereal, which generally doesn't have fat. So it's sugar on top of sugar, no protein, tiny bit in the milk, but really not much, no fat. So you spike your blood sugar, then it crashes, and then you're starving, and then you can't stop eating. And then you think, it's because I have no willpower. No, it's because you had spiking and crashing blood sugar. And when your blood sugar crashes, physiologically, you need sugar. And so that's why we turn to that. So that's where the PFF is your BFF comes in.
Okay,
Protein, fat, fiber,
I thought we were gonna segue to that.
Yeah.
But first, before we do, sugar is the devil.
I mean, unfortunately, yes. And I say unfortunately because it tastes delicious, right?
It does.
And I love it. Now, someone's like, well, what about fruit? What about natural sugar? Yes, of course. Food that has naturally occurring sugar is giving you nutrients. But it doesn't mean you can eat as much as you want without consequences. I don't know if you feel this way, but it's like nails on a chalkboard that we put fruits and vegetables in the same phrase as if they're the same thing, because they're not the same thing. The only commonality they have is they grow outside. They're plants. But the nutrient panel of a fruit and a vegetable is very, very, very different. And so when you hear fruits and vegetables, what do most people do? Eat fruit. Lots of it because it tastes delicious. Well, of course it does. It has sugar. I'm not anti-fruit. I eat fruit every day. Half a serving of this and half a serving of that, maybe half a serving of that, and I have 1.5 servings of fruit a day. And then I eat like 9 or 10 servings of vegetables a day. So it's one of those things that you really do have to take some time to truly understand food So
Mhm.
you understand how this, what, number one, what is this food giving you? Number two, what is it costing you? So
Mhm.
yes, there are high quality, whole nourishing foods that cost something.
Mhm.
So I think dairy's great, but it costs something.
Mhm.
Maybe you're not the best at breaking down lactose, or it's that, that extra sugar that gives you calories. Okay, well, then you determine, is it worth the cost? Right?
Mhm.
Whole grains, yes, they give us some really great nutrients. They come at a gigantic cost of calories, lots
Mhm.
of calories for a very small portion. And nobody eats a very small portion of grain. We eat a giant portion of grain.
Mhm.
So, understanding what something gives you and what it costs you is really important to help you figure out the balance of the choices that you're going to make so that you can have outcomes that you probably are looking for.
One of my problems with vegetables, because I do love them, and I actually started, it was about a year or so ago, making breakfast salads. So, I would just a bunch of kale, avocado, and lemon, and that's my base. And then I start putting all kind of other things on it, that I had in the refrigerator, and I just loved it. And my husband would laugh at me, but I would eat that huge salad for breakfast, and I would be full. I thought, oh, I'm going to be starving in an hour. I would be full until even after lunchtime. It was just wonderful. But it's just so hard to keep them in the refrigerator and to keep a supply of fresh vegetables. That's like my biggest issue. And I hate the grocery store with a passion. I just hate it. So
Well,
it's
there's
like
solutions to that, Cheryl. Number one is you eat them, right?
right.
You eat them. But number two, frozen is fine. Now, obviously, not for something like that, but
Hmm.
I make I call it hot salad
Oh,
because it's basically all of the vegetables I would have in a salad, not like romaine lettuce, but I
right.
do like arugula, spinach, riced cauliflower, mushrooms,
Hmm.
tomatoes,
Hmm. Yeah.
onions, bell pepper. I saute it all up. I crack a few eggs through it. Maybe there's some chicken I throw in it. Then I put some avocado on it. It's hot salad.
Okay. Well, that's a good,
And
thank you.
so I mean, the arugula, the spinach, the rice cauliflower, that's all in the freezer.
Hmm.
The other
Hmm.
stuff, saute it, easy breezy. If I'm eating a salad, which I generally eat a gigantic bucket of salad every day, it's usually,
Hmm.
mixed greens or romaine, and then all those. I mean, it's PFF, protein, fat, fiber. That's why you're full, because you have those three things. Those three things are really hard for the body to break down. So it offers this nice, very slow, steady release of fuel versus
Hmm.
the spike and crash that you
Hmm.
get when you eat something that's all carbs. Like another classic is oatmeal. People are so proud because they're eating oatmeal. I'm like,
Hmm.
yes, and
Hmm.
it's sugar. I know it's a high quality, whole, nourishing, whole grain, but a plant has sugar, right? It's a carbohydrate. You
Hmm.
have got to have protein and fat with it, or it spikes your blood sugar and then it crashes, and then you go eat sugar. That's just what happens. Or you're hungry.
Hmm.
So always PFF, protein, fat, and fiber. The
Hmm.
other thing that I know helped me, it sounds like help you because you're eating a breakfast salad,
Hmm.
is there is no rule as to what food must be eaten at what time of day.
Hmm.
I don't even label things breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. Food is just food. If it's PFF and I like it, I don't care what time it is. I don't care what it looks like on a plate. I
Hmm.
like it, so I will eat it and I will love it and I will be nourished and satisfied. And then an hour and a half or 2 hours later, I'll eat something else. And then
Hmm.
an hour and a half or 2 hours later, I'll eat another PFF. And then I'll eat another PFF. And I just eat what I know I need to eat because I know what my body needs. I don't go by hunger because hunger is a horrible cue.
Hmm.
Um, just had this conversation with a girlfriend. We were out and like that I'm always on people to eat. I'm like, you have to eat more than that. Well, I'm not starving. You shouldn't be starving. You should not be starving. Like that is, you shouldn't wait till you're starving to eat. Well, I'm not really hungry. Okay, but you still need to eat because I think people don't understand that we have hunger hormones that
Hmm.
tell you you're hungry and tell you that you're satisfied. And if your hunger hormones are perfectly balanced and being released and sending their messages exactly when they're supposed to, they are great messengers. they usually are not perfectly balanced and are not being released and sending their messages when they're supposed to, because we do a lot of things that throw them off balance, like not getting enough sleep. You overproduce ghrelin and you underproduce leptin. Being chronically stressed, acute stress, you underproduce ghrelin and overproduce leptin. Going too long without eating, you actually got the hunger signal, but you ignored it, or you were so engrossed in something else you didn't even notice it. So your body's like, oh, I get it. It's because there is no food. Okay. Well, I don't want to annoy you with this really irritating feeling. So we'll just shut that feeling off because you don't have any food anyway. You can't do anything about it. So, okay. And then like a while later, you're like, oh gosh, it's 2 o'clock and I haven't eaten, but I'm not hungry. So you don't eat. Well, just because you're not hungry doesn't mean you don't need to eat. It's it's like if you have a car and you have the the gas light comes on when your gas tank's empty to remind you to put gas in your car. Well, let's say that light is burnt out. It's just burnt out. It doesn't mean you don't need to put gas in your car. It just means your indicator light is malfunctioned. I would not rely on hunger ever as a good cue. This is why I want people to understand how to feed themselves, how to fuel yourself based on what you need, and then you just do it.
So I have a question for you, because I know that this intermittent fasting is like a really big thing these days. So what are your thoughts on that? I've talked to somebody, I had someone on my podcast quite a while back who was explaining, the spike in blood sugar and blah, 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 and why it was beneficial. But I don't get it.
Well, I believe it's beneficial. Like so many things, you have to do it correctly. I do not subscribe to the super extreme versions. I think we need a window of eating and then we need to stop eating. So what's happened is we've gotten really good about eating breakfast because we're all told it's the most important meal of the day, which it is. You need to fuel yourself within 4 hours of starting your day, right? When you get up and start to function, your day has started. You need to fuel yourself within that 4-hour window. And then you need to stop eating at some point. But what we do is we eat and then we don't eat all day. And then we go home and we don't stop eating. And we eat well into the night when we should be not eating. And then we lay down and go to bed. So a minimum of 12 hours where you don't put anything but water in your body is required, because your body needs to just not have anything to deal with. Most of those hours should be at the tail end of your day and while you're sleeping. A lot of people get up and function and don't eat until like noon or 2, and you've been up since 5 or 6. Well, during that time, your body is starting to wonder if there's actually food. And so it's conserving energy because it doesn't know if you're going to feed it in 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days or 5 weeks. It's going to assume the worst. And then you go home and you can't stop eating, and then you lay down and go to bed. You don't need fuel to lay down and go to bed. You need fuel so your brain can function and think, and you have energy and all the things when you're awake. So minimum of 12 hours of not eating. I think up to a 16-hour window of fasting is very doable for most people as a lifestyle. 8 hours to eat, 16 hours to not eat. Or maybe you want 10 hours to eat and 14 hours to not eat. Anything over that 12-hour window is beneficial. I do not subscribe to anything more extreme. You don't eat for 20 hours and then you cram all your food in your mouth in 4 hours. Number one, you're not going to get the adequate number of calories and nutrients into your body in 4 hours. And so a lot of people see results, and usually the result is weight loss because that's what everybody's looking for. Well, it's because you're hardly eating. That's why. It's because you're not eating probably enough calories. You're probably eating a starvation diet. Or they seem to think, well, I'm doing intermittent fasting and I can eat whatever I want during that time. No, you still need to eat high quality, whole nourishing food in the appropriate amounts. You just eat it in this window and then you stop eating. That's
I have actually a friend, a friend of the family. She's a friend of one of my sisters. and has struggled mightily with weight loss and has tried every single diet on the planet. And the crazier it is, the more enthusiastically she embraces it. And one of them she did several years ago, it was a program, I'm using air quotes here, where you didn't eat all day except for 1 hour. And in that 1 hour, you could eat whatever you wanted. So in that 1 hour, the things that she was eating, I mean, I couldn't even stand to watch, because it was just, what are you doing to your body?
Yeah.
But,
Well, and that's the thing. Again, we put all this focus on weight, but food is the raw materials that your body uses to develop its organs, its tissues, its chemicals, hormones, neurotransmitters, to help your brain function, to help you, reduce your risk for disease, to heal your gut. I mean, I think we are so conditioned to only think about food in terms of calories instead of food in terms of nutrients. And this is why, again, the balance of those nutrients is important, because, plants, carbohydrates, have vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals, and hopefully fiber if you're eating the whole version, or the version as close to its natural state as possible. Food that has protein, the reason we need that is for the amino acids, and we need a whole bunch as well as a variety of amino acids, because they link up in our body to form a whole bunch of different chemical compounds, which carry out a whole bunch of different functions. And then the food that we eat that has fat, it's for the fatty acids, which again carry out a whole bunch of different functions, all the different types of fatty acids. So and I've had this conversation with many vegetarians and vegans. When I say eat protein, they think I say eat meat. I have never said eat meat. Just because you prefer not to eat animals doesn't mean your human does not need protein. Every human needs the same things. We all need protein because we all need amino acids, because we all need our hormones and our neurotransmitters and our structural components like keratin, and the transportation services like ferritin. Like, these are amino acids. You only get that from protein. And so, most people are very protein deficient, which means they're very amino acid deficient, which is why we might start to see some less than optimally functioning going on with various aspects of our health.
So I'm going to take a moment right now just to reiterate, after this long discussion, which has been fantastic and very, very educational, is what is it? The Passion Project is called the PFF is your BFF Handbook, a simple guide to fueling your busy body. And I love the busy body. Well, I love the fueling part, because it's not just, here's what you eat. Food is fuel. And that's what you're doing, is you're fueling your body. But the busy body, because our bodies are always so busy, even when we are at rest, because there are internal functions that are always going on. And if you don't have the fuel to provide the proper energy, then you're going to end up with a lot of problems, a lot of, disease states. So anyway, when people go to your link and they get your handbook, do you explain a little bit more about, just like you did with us here, the need of what the, protein, the fiber, and what was it? Protein.
Come on, Cheryl, I know you can do it. Protein, fat, fiber, PFF.
Fat. Oh my gosh. Fat. How could I not get the fat? Yeah, the protein, fat, and fiber. I mean, I love the way that you explain how it goes together. I think people just get so misguided because they really don't understand. And if they try and do their own research or their own homework, that gets really, really overwhelming.
Yeah, no, and I love how you describe the busy body, because our bodies are always busy internally. What I actually mean by that is we are busy human beings, and nobody's got time, right? That's always, I don't have time to eat healthy. I don't have time to make all these meals. Well, here's the thing, PFF is very simple. It doesn't take a lot of time. And that's one of the frameworks I try to help people bust out of, is that number one, healthy is boring and takes a lot of time. And number two, that a meal has to look a certain way on a plate. If you learn what foods give me protein, what foods give me fat, what foods give me fiber, you come up with the ones that you like, and then you come up with your PFF combos. It is very, very, very easy for the very busy person, right?
Mhm.
If you want to be elaborate and create elaborate meals, you certainly can do that. But I think too often we've told ourselves this story that healthy food takes too much time.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
doesn't. It really does. I
Mhm.
mean, yes, there's some, but I mean, if you want to have some outcomes, then you probably have
Mhm.
to put some time and energy into getting the
Mhm.
outcome.
Mhm.
But you can also go anywhere. Literally, you can pop into 7-Eleven and choose PFF if you want
Mhm.
to,
Mhm.
because it's there. You just have to know what it is and how to do it. You
Mhm.
can go to a potluck and choose PFF. You can
Mhm.
go, to the company barbecue. You can go on the cruise. You can go home for the holidays. You can go anywhere. That's why I want people to learn nutrition, right? It's the whole,
Mhm.
I can give you a fish and you'll eat for a day, but if I teach you to fish, you'll eat forever. I can
Mhm.
give you a meal plan. I
Mhm.
can actually even give you the food. What happens when you're not around me, when you don't have access to the food, when the meal plan isn't an option because you're on the cruise, or
Mhm.
because you're going to visit, grandma, or because everybody's coming over to your house,
Mhm.
or you're at the mercy of whatever's being served at this conference?
Mhm.
Well, if you know PFF, well, you can make those choices.
Mhm.
So that's my approach to it.
Mhm.
And honestly, that book was really at the insistence of one of the groups that I've done my Revolution program for, because they're like, just write a meal plan for us. I'm like, no. And these were teachers. I'm like, do you just give your students the answers? No, I want you to learn. And so we would have, come up with PFF combos, and finally they're like, but can you just like write a guidebook? Okay, I can write a guidebook. So
Mhm.
yes, I go through all the explanation. Also in there is my Better Beings Food Island. So most of us grew up with the pyramid, and then followed
Ah.
up by Choose My Plate, both of which are horrible. So I
Mhm.
came up with the Better Beings Food Island, and I go into detail and describe it there. It's also my March 2023 blog. If you go to my website, you'll read all
Mhm.
about the Food Island, and I describe all of this stuff as well.
Mhm. I love that food island.
Yeah. It's one of my, I would have to say, it's one of my most proud creations, honestly.
Did you come up with that at 3 o'clock in the morning? That's when I get all my really great
Um,
ideas.
Possibly.
Okay,
Yes.
so now Michelle, tell us more. You already just mentioned it about the U Revolution, and the classes that you teach for. Let me see. Oh, it's the U Revolution University.
Yeah. So mostly what I do in my profession is I do corporate well-being.
Mhm.
So lunch and learns, conference breakout sessions, it's all about self-care, how to be a healthy, happy human. So I
Let
teach
me
on
just
all
interrupt you for
facets.
1 minute because I'm really curious about that. Walking into like a corporate situation where, I'm picturing, these corporate people and, the boardroom and these big windows and these big squishy chairs, and in you walk to teach them some wellness. What is the reception like when you walk in and say, this is what we're going to talk about?
Well, they already know what we're talking about because they've invited me and pitched and promoted the session.
Okay,
Nobody's
great.
surprised.
Uh-huh.
They're coming there voluntarily. And I mean, I'm gonna toot my horn 99% of the time they love it. Because we're all human. It doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
matter that we're at work.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody still wants to understand how to eat right, or
Mm-hmm.
how to get better sleep, or how
Mm-hmm.
to, change their attitude or their mindset, or
Mm-hmm.
how to fit exercise into their busy lives.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, generally, they're not forced to go. I'm usually a welcome guest.
Okay. Alrighty. So tell us a little bit more about it then. So you are available for, corporate, any other special groups that you work with?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've done a variety, basically any group that needs some aspect of health or well-being. So I'm doing some programming for Chamber of Commerce group. I've done programming for the Colorado Bar Association, speaking at conferences. I love what's happening recently, which I don't know why every single conference doesn't have this, but some kind of wellness track for their conference attendees. Because by
Nice.
now we should all know that healthier humans are more productive, more engaged employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not rocket science. And
Mm-hmm.
because we spend more of our waking hours at work than anywhere else, why not bring a little bit of well-being, self-care, how to, engage in self-care through a very busy, challenging work environments, and how do we still be able to do that? So I teach and talk and keynotes, conferences on all of those things. So the U Revolution specifically is my program, which is technically a 12-week, sort of a 10-week. I really can curate it to whoever the population is, what the needs are. But it goes through everything inside and out, head to toe, inside out. Somebody actually was Mandy's old producer, Dave Logan. He described the book as like a user's manual for just like how to be a human. And so the course goes through all that content. And then I created U Revolution University, which is for anybody, because basically whoever gets me now is because their company has invited me to come in. And so U Revolution University is your online school to learn how to be a healthy, happy human. So I have different modules. Maybe you just want to do nutrition. So there's nutrition 101 and nutrition 201. Maybe you just want to do understanding and managing chronic disease. Maybe you want the whole shebang. So you sign up for the whole full tuition option, and then you get every course and one-on-one coaching as well. So there's lots of things you can do within there, but it's basically all the things that I teach and preach and write in the book in a video content format.
Okay, so let's go back in time. And I'm saying like way back in time.
Oh boy.
When you first started as a personal trainer, and especially with some of the feedback you were getting from people like, oh, honey, well, okay, you can get a real job in a couple of months. Would you have ever in your wildest dreams, if you could have looked into a crystal ball and see what you would be creating, or if somebody had told you, Michelle, you are going to be so incredibly successful and have all of these, it's not just one or two services. I mean, you've built this incredible platform to help other people. What would you have said?
I mean, how is that even possible? Because that doesn't exist. I mean, 26 years ago, corporate wellness, it was like, oh, we have a gym. That was corporate wellness. And maybe we do like an annual on-site health fair. That was corporate wellness. So no, never, because you don't know what you don't know. And in my world, when I was that age, I thought I was going to be a personal trainer forever. Forever. Why would I not do this? So I think, it's part timing for sure. I mean, I came into it when it was really, I grew with it, right? My big leap and kind of pivot more into the corporate wellness was because on-site health fairs did become more of a thing. So I did those on-site health fairs, and I often did the health coaching at the end where somebody goes through and gets all their biometrics, and then I have 3 minutes to explain the results to them. And I'm like, 3 minutes, you gotta be crazy. Because I'm not just like, oh, you have high blood pressure, reduce your sodium intake, because A, that's actually not a thing, and B, I don't know if you should do that or not, because I don't even know what you eat, right? So I don't give you just this stupid blanket answer that we're given these general guidelines, because general guidelines, who are they serving? I don't know any general people. So I wanted to know more so I could actually give you useful information for you, because that's going to be different than useful information for somebody else. So it was through all of that that people got very interested and curious. And then they would ask me, well, can you come in and talk to our whole company about reducing their blood pressure or staying healthy on the road because they travel a lot, or, why exercise is beneficial and like actually how that's impacting them. Because I've always believed that if you understand how something works and why it works, you're much more likely to do it than just somebody say, well, just eat better and exercise more. Because what does any of that even mean? It doesn't mean anything. So I think a lot of my longevity in the industry is because I have grown and evolved as the industry has grown and evolved. And I mean, obviously I'm doing an okay job because people keep me coming back. But I also try to teach from a point of experience. Like, I want to know why for myself. I want to have gone through my own growth on this. And then I can tell you, like, this has been my experience. So when we talk about adjusting your attitude, I know it's hard. because I actually did it myself. I also know that it changes everything because I have seen how it's changed everything in my life. So I don't just say these things because we're told to say them. I say them because I've actually done them myself. And maybe there are some things that have not been my own personal experience, but I've worked with thousands of people over the course of 26 years. And I've come across a lot of people with very different challenges. We've worked through the challenges and kind of figured out some solutions to them. And I kind of know ahead of time what the obstacles for somebody might be, not because I have a crystal ball, but because I've seen it, because I've been around and doing it for a long time. So to think, what does it look like next? I don't know. I mean, I have been doing this for 26 years. So at some point I would just like to be done, but not yet. Obviously I have a podcast, and, I would like to just continue to explore and expand all the things. I do have, a couple other little passion projects on the horizon.
Ooh, make sure you keep me posted.
Yeah, so we'll see. I will tell you, this is actually going to be my first public announcement of this. Is that okay if I drop news flash?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right here on the FemiNinja Project. You
It's
heard
true.
it here first.
It's true. So I've had for many years a very close alignment with American Heart Association here locally in Denver. A couple years ago, I was invited to Alaska to be the keynote speaker at their Go Red Luncheon, which was amazing, and love it. Love all the things, and all the things about my people in Alaska. And, kind of reconnecting with the people here in Denver, because through COVID, everything just go, So reconnected, and I've been asked multiple times to take some kind of leadership role in one of their campaigns, whether it's Go Red for Women or the Heart Walk. And I've always hesitated, and I've decided I'm doing it this year. So I actually just this morning officially joined the Heart Walk campaign board for the 2024 Heart Walk.
Nice.
Well, part of being on a board is you are expected to bring in money. That's what a nonprofit needs, right? They need money. Well, I don't just like asking people for money. That doesn't feel good to me. I like to give you something. So I am offering 20 weeks of the U Revolution starting in January, going through the culmination where we all celebrate as a team at the June 1st Heart Walk in Denver. If you can't make it for the walk, you can walk alongside of us in your own city. And to be part of that, it is simply a contribution to the American Heart fundraising, Better Being Heart Walk team. It's a very nominal contribution considering this is a 20-week program of lifestyle change. And so if anybody is interested in that, please reach out to me, because I am formulating the pitch to get it out to the masses and to get this Better Beings team rocking and rolling, and to take anybody. This isn't just for women. I mean, heart disease is the number one killer of everybody. And to really impact change, because that's the thing, is like, that's what I want to do. I want you to change your life. I want you to make the changes in your habits that will change your life. And that's what the U Revolution is all about. And so to do that alongside as a fundraiser for American Heart, that is how I'm going to be on this leadership team, and I'm going to bring it in for them.
Oh, excellent. Congratulations. That's wonderful. Now, how can people contact you or sign up for it if they like? Is it going to be on your website, or do they just reach out to you? How do they reach you?
I mean, for now, just reach out to me, because we don't have all the things in place yet. Literally, this just happened this morning, but I've had this vision of how this could work for a long time, and I finally got the buy-in from them and the go-ahead. So it doesn't kick off until January, so we have some time. But absolutely email me, reach out to me, and let me know that you're interested. I will give you all the details, as I'm still sorting a few of them out, but mostly I have everything locked in place.
Well, that's very, very exciting. So why don't you give us a couple of the links? I mean, I know all your links are going to be on the show notes forever and ever and ever, but I really like for the guests to have the opportunity to verbalize. It makes it a little bit more personal. And also do include where they can buy your books.
Yeah, thank you. Betterbeings.net is the easiest place. You will see all the links to all my socials from there. You can also sign up to be a subscriber, so you'll get my monthly newsletter. My podcast is right there on the website as well, but it is the Be a Better Being podcast. You can find it on all platforms. And if you just go to Amazon and type in my name, Michelle Zellner, my books will come up.
Excellent. Yes, they do. Well, Michelle, do you have any final like little pearls of wisdom or golden nuggets you'd like to share before we sign off?
Oh my gosh, my friends always call them Michelleisms, and they are like, I always have it in my head. I think I'll just say what I usually tell anybody is healthy choices are hard. That is always the answer. We're never going to get away from it. And yet they're worth it because it is hard now or harder later. That is also always the answer. So you do what you can, the best you can in the real life that you're living to make the best choices you can at any given moment. Recognizing that, if you're looking for a certain outcome, you might not get it because you might need to do it for longer than you want or do more than you want. And yet every good choice is a good choice. Regardless of the outcome, it's actually doing something good for you. And if you just take that baby step approach and get out of the all or nothing mode, which is very hard to get out of, but I'm telling you, you have to get out of it. Once you get out of that, you will see how these small changes and choices you're making do have a positive impact on your overall well-being. So I just encourage you to embrace the journey and do the work and then start living the benefits of it.
Excellent. Michelle, it has been just an absolute delight having you on the show. You're welcome back anytime. So if you have a few more, little things coming up, we would love to hear about them. And thank you. It's just been great having you on the show.
Well, thank you, my friend. It's always so fun. I feel like we could talk forever and ever and ever.
We really could, but I can hear the dogs starting to get a little bit
All right, it's
rambunctious.
time.
So
Thank you.
they've been good so far, but I don't know. We're pushing it. You're welcome. And like I said, you're welcome back anytime. And when you were talking about that, it's like, the journey of 1,000 miles, begins with a single step. All you got to do is take that step.
Exactly.
So thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
And everybody, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Oh, please do share this episode with everyone you know. Contact Michelle, follow her on social media, look into the University, and definitely I am very, very intrigued with let me see, where are my notes? That your PFF is your BFF Handbook. And I love that it's fueling your busy body. And I did a little double entendre there during the show. The busy body in many different ways has many meanings. So, and remember that your health is so important to you and that good health is a lifelong commitment. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.